Now we're kind of having to scramble a little bit to gather some sponsors and fundraising type items for door prizes and golfers and whatnot.
Hi, Leslie. You're muted, but that's okay. There's Jan. Hi, Jan. Chrissy's here. And I think when I logged on, ladies, I don't know if this is the case across the board, but when I logged on, my video and my audio were off, muted by default. So if that's the case for you, just so you know, it's okay to stay muted for the moment, but know that if you start talking, we can't hear you right off the bat. So we've got Diana. And I'll ask Caitlin, as the email hostess here, do you happen to know how many we're expecting on this call?
I actually don't. I'm not sure exactly where to see how many people registered.
Okay.
But I do know that right now we have 9 participants, which is good.
Yes.
Or the less. Yeah, I'm excited. This is a good sized group too. 9 people, it's enough to have some good conversation, but also not too many.
Cool.
We perfectly fit on the screen.
I know.
So there's that.
Nice little group. Chrissy, you're in Hawaii, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you, is it 2 o'clock there?
2 o'clock, yeah. I'm sitting here with a mini fan because it is really hot today.
Oh no. There's that Jen and Catherine at Giant Steps joining.
Yep.
Very good.
Oh, I'm Jen also.
I see that.
I'm assuming Jen will be on the call shortly. I'm Catherine.
Hi, Catherine. And Michelle is I think the last gal that I invited for somebody that I know has already had a fundraiser, and I heard great things about it. So I want to make sure that we get her on too.
So Jen forwarded me her link. I wonder if it will let her on if I'm using it.
Oh, are you guys in separate buildings right now or separate places?
We are, yes.
Okay. I don't know how that'll work.
Did you both register, or did Jen just register once?
Jen registered and forwarded me the email.
Okay, so I don't know if it's going to let her on without registering. Let me see. Maybe I'll send her a quick text and tell her to register through a different, I don't know, account. Does she have? Do you have to have an account?
I mean, if you want to send me a quick email with the invitation, I can sign on as myself.
And then what's your email?
Hers.
Do you want to throw your email into the chat really quick?
Say that again?
Can you throw your email into the chat screen really quick?
Sure. There you go.
Okay, Nicole, why don't we go ahead and start the call, and I will text Jen and see if she's able to join without me sending a link.
Okay.
And then I can always send one to her if I need to, okay? So just go ahead and start. And then if anybody needs to share screen, I'm not sure if you have that ability, but just let me know. I'll see if I can figure out how to do that.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, gotcha. Well, hello everybody. My name is Nicole, and I'm going to do some quick introductions here, but also wanted to do some housekeeping things. So we are recording this evening. There are several people that have expressed interest in this call, but who can't make it. So we are recording. So with that being said, if your audio is on, I'm going to ask you to turn it off, just for the sake of not having interfering audio while we are conversing this evening. So mute yourself if you would, and then whenever you'd like to talk, feel free to take yourself off. But my name is Nicole. I am the Central California State Chair for PATH International's Region 11. Because it's such a large state, they break it up into 3. So I'm the Central California State Chair. And as a region leadership team, myself and the other gals here from Region 11 have tried to host monthly Zoom meetings here for Region 11 just to stay connected, see how everybody's doing, and different topics each month. So last week, I believe we talked about virtual horse shows as a way to stay connected. And this month we are talking about fall or fundraising in general. So a lot of us I know are preparing for fall fundraisers for our centers. And I know that that looks different for everybody depending on what your normal situation would be, what it would look like when there isn't a pandemic, and then also, of course, based on the size of your centers. So with that, I have asked 4 folks to join us, either who have had a virtual fundraiser that's been very successful already, who are planning a virtual fundraiser that would normally not be virtual, and also somebody who is doing or is a beneficiary of a fundraiser that they don't actually have, I think, full control of. So I want to introduce actually 3 people from Region 10 and all in Colorado. I was in Colorado for 5 years and made some great connections. So I was referred to a couple of these gals by connections there, and I'm really happy to introduce Jan from Hearts and Horses. They're in Northern Colorado. All of these ladies are also from Premier accredited centers with PATH. So Jan, sorry, I've got Jen and Jan next to each other on the call. Jan is with Hearts and Horses. Cheryl is with Front Range Exceptional Equestrians. And Michelle is with Colorado Therapeutic Riding Center. And then Jen and Catherine are here from Giant Steps in Northern California to talk about what their event might look like in the fall. So I'll ask first the ladies that I had sent an email to inviting for this call. Did you guys get the questions that I had asked you to kind of think about for your center in particular? Yes, okay. So I'm gonna actually ask Jan to start. You shook your head first. So if you're comfortable, Jan, sharing with us who you are, what you do for Hearts and Horses, and a little bit about what's coming down the pipe for you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Nicole. It's so great to see you. And it's good to see all these folks out here in our industry, just putting one foot in front of the other every day like we're doing right now. So I'm Jan Palima. I'm the Executive Director of Hearts and Horses, and I've been the ED since 2013. I was the Program Director prior to that for a number of years. The questions Nicole wanted me to mention was, so our center's annual budget, pre-COVID, COVID, post-COVID, I don't know. We're looking at about a $1.2 million budget for this current cycle. Our weekly ridership prior to COVID was about 200 riders a week. The number of fundraisers we hold annually is 1. It's our annual gala. It's normally a in-person event with 750 people at the MC Suites here in Northern Colorado. Last year, our net was about $350,000. I would say the bulk of that comes from a lot of sponsorship support. Almost all of the tables have a sponsor with them. So it's a wonderful way to bring a lot of people into the event that haven't had to pay to get there. And then the other thing that is that's kind of a signature part of our event is a really large, diverse auction that up until this year has been on paper. But we knew we need to move to mobile, so it's all good. And that also has a live auction component and a paddle raiser and all of those good things. we have not done a fundraiser since the pandemic has taken place. I mean, we've done a couple of little things. We joined in on the Giving Tuesday Now back in May. As part of our operations, we're assigning one helmet to each rider for the entire session. So we've done a little helmet fundraiser. I think that's it. Did I hit it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you covered everything I had asked, and it's relatively informal as far as what I had in mind. So if anybody has any questions specific to any of these centers, any of the fundraisers that you're hearing about, I would encourage you to ask about them. But I know, Jan, you mentioned you guys haven't had one yet, so you guys are kind of preparing for what's to come. When is your gala scheduled?
It's October 10th. And yeah, I would say from March until May, we've just been in this spin. Like, we've just been spinning on, what do we do? The Embassy Suites wanted us to sign a pretty hardcore contract. They had COVID language, but it would have been a pretty significant hit if we just decided we didn't feel right about doing an in-person event. So we pulled it from there, and we brought it back to Hearts and Horses. I think in May is when we decided that, maybe April. And then just recently we decided to make it a completely virtual event. So for a while there, we were thinking it would be this hybrid deal. Some people in person, some people at home, and just the amount of bandwidth trying to figure out how to do all of this stuff that, we know how to do. Our gala committee is pretty small. We have like maybe 8 to 10 people, but like, we run the event. Like, we don't have an event producer. We don't have any of that. And we know how to run an event really, really, really well. That kind of an event. So it's just been it's just been a lot of like feeling like we have no idea what the hell we're doing, for those months. And now that we kind of have decided to we made the decision, I think 3 weeks ago, to go completely virtual, and then like the next day cases in our county are going higher. And so just, it was obviously the right choice. Now we're putting all of our brain cells and bandwidth into how to produce this event, and just talked to a lady yesterday, and I'm feeling much, much, much better about what this will be.
Great. Thank you very much for going first and sharing, Jan. I'll ask 2 questions first regarding your subcommittee. Is that staff? Is it volunteers? Is it board members? Is it community members? Who makes up your fundraising committee?
All of the above. Yeah.
Okay. And then you just made the decision 3 weeks ago to go virtual. So do you have, I know you mentioned you're not on that committee, but do you guys have an idea of what that looks like? How are you going to translate an event that reached 750 people to virtual? You guys know that yet?
Ish. I think what we're envisioning is something a little, I know there's been a lot of centers, and I know Michelle at CTRC, like, you guys just kind of like did it. Like, you just did it, and you go. You just had to do it. I think what we're trying to envision for the fall, because we have some time, is more of a produced like TV show with some live components to it. So mostly recorded, pulled together with some live components. So we're hoping to have a live auction. Well, we will have a live auction, our live auctioneer will be doing that. So it'll probably be a very similar to format as to all of you that have been going to these virtual events. Like, we have, a little pre-event, 30 minutes long, and then the event itself is an hour. Our silent auction will probably open, that Monday or Tuesday. The event's on a Saturday, and we'll probably close the auction sometime on Sunday or Monday after. So.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you very much for sharing that. And I guess I probably should have started with Michelle, because I know for a fact, Michelle, you've already done
They did it.
a fundraiser.
Yeah.
And I've heard from more than one person that it was a hit. So I would love for you to share what you guys did at CTRC.
Sure. So we normally hold our annual gala. My name is Michelle Bruin. I'm the executive director of Colorado Therapeutic Writing Center. This year we're celebrating our 40th year as a nonprofit. And so that had a big part, thank you, in all of this. I've been executive director for 3 years now. Our annual budget is a little over 600,000 a year. We roughly serve around 150 participants weekly, normal. We just opened up this week, so very happy about that. So reopening. I think those are all the intro questions, right? Okay. I can give the whole rundown. I don't know how, like, timeline of things. What would be beneficial to hear kind of that, maybe?
Well, okay, so when was your gala? Did you guys get shut down in March?
We did. So we suspended classes in March. Our virtual gala was May 9th. Normally it brings in anywhere around 60 to 80,000. This year we did 120,000. So really good, a lot of good things happening in the midst of this craziness.
Is that a net, sorry to interrupt, is that net for your event, Michelle?
Oh, we spent like 4,000. So yeah.
Okay.
Versus like the 24, right? So,
Yep.
And Jan, it's so nice to see you. Hi. And hello to everybody. So we suspended classes March, I think it was like the 6th or 16th, somewhere in that first or second week of March. It was a few days after that where I knew we had to raise money for the center, and the only option at that point was to go virtual with everything shutting down. And it was like, mass panic. I mean, it was just wild for a while there. And so what we did is we completely changed horses midstream. We normally have this whole process. I know I mentioned I'd only been in this position for 3 years, but the prior ED was here for 20. And so there's just a very well-oiled machine in how to put this event together, which I jumped into the first couple of years. It was kind of a funny situation where we were about to send out the invitations for the event, and that was the very weekend that everything shut down. So we pulled that out and changed gears, and I can talk a little bit about, so we did send out the save the date, and then instead of an actual invitation, we sent out sort of a card. Whoops, low battery. Oh, sorry about that, low battery. Okay. Sent out a card in place of an actual invitation with a remittance envelope for anyone that couldn't attend. We put together a committee of some really tech savvy folks. So in our volunteer crew, we have a lot of people that are in the IT business and IT world that could help us. So I basically, pulled a few all-nighters figuring out conceptualizing how we wanted this to look, and our team came in and really helped flush it out and make it happen. It is our 40th anniversary, so we could celebrate. We put together a show, so very much how Jan said, putting together, we did a telethon, a phone-a-thon, we had online donations, we had an online auction, and then we did live pieces through Facebook. So we did a live event through Facebook and also through, it's not Google, it's the video, what's the video app?
YouTube.
Thank you. Okay. Through YouTube as well. So we pushed it live through both of those streams. We sent out a fun card of venue, your living room. I worked with a marketing director who helped help us kind of put this together of ideas. We had entertainment, we did polls, we had gala king and queen horse. So we had our constituents vote on the horses. We did a bunch of live segments here on the property. We also brought in a MC. So we brought in Mark Johnson, who's the voice of the CU Buffs, and brought his following in, and just having that. And he actually broadcasted from his living room. And so the the program that we used is called vMix, with a V and then mix, if you've heard of that. So we could bring all these feeds, and we had someone behind the scenes as sort of like a switchboard, could put one in, then the next, and the next, and then it got, and of course, you know, you come up with simple ideas, and as time goes on, it's like, well, can we do this? Oh, can we do this? And so it was really, we created it in real time. So there was no plan. There wasn't anything to go off of. We celebrated 40 years of history of CTRC. I spent many months before the actual event interviewing, getting little videos from our founder, from our key volunteers, key donors. We really told the story of CTRC and what we mean to our community, and really pulled on all the heartstrings, right? We opened up our live auction several days before, and then we closed it the night of. And I was actually on the phone with one of our donors that night, and he's like bidding and kept bidding on a couple of these things that were like, you know, worth $100, that like, so some of these items went for more because people wanted a little piece of, we had some homemade things. So, you know, it's kind of whatever works for your organization, but our community loves things made by each other. We have a couple artistic woods craftsmen who build different things. And so people wanted a piece of what Frank Campbell made. And so it was just a really neat opportunity because that helped build community. I would say one of the things that I think helped, yes, it was our 40th. And then we also sent out with, and I'm gonna show, I could show this. We sent out a little card instead of an actual normal, like formal invitation, what we normally do. I don't know if you guys can see this, and this might be janky, so tell me if this doesn't work. But we did a little like our COVID relief fund, and we tried to make it, as we all experienced in the first couple months, there was panic, and there was really hard, you know, emotions were really strong. We tried to lighten it up a little bit and make people like want to be part of it, because how often in the media are people things thrown at them on a daily basis of just how awful things are. So we tried to keep it a little lighter, but also get that importance, let people know how important it is. We found a musician, a singer who came in and did a little segment for us for intermission. So we had that. We also had a gala match. So we had a donor that did a $35,000 match. And so we were highlighting that through all of this. Facebook is a wonderful tool. If you can get some folks that can help you, and if you're not already using it, but to do live videos. I don't know if any of you have done live videos, but we did a ton of live videos leading up to the event as sort of like prep. I'm like, hey, we're gonna try going live, and I cannot stress this enough. Get a practice page and invite a few people to the practice page, because things will go wrong. You have everything up ready for you. They're gonna go wrong, no matter what. So we did a couple practice shows through this private group where we invited some of our volunteers, some of our donors, just like a handful, to kind of help give feedback and make sure that the bandwidth on both ends worked. That's another thing. So most of our donors are seniors, and so training and teaching people how to use Facebook was a challenge. We sent instructional videos. I got on the phone personally with several donors and walked them through the steps of how to get on Facebook, how to get a Facebook page. So that was very interesting. I've learned so much about IT personally in the past couple months because I've been forced. Google, if you don't use Google Drive, if you're trying to do a virtual event, Google Drive allowed us to communicate. And we had, let me see if I can show this. Again, I'm trying to, I don't have like a share screen. I'm technologically there, but not quite there. So I'm going to show you on paper. I'm happy to provide any information that people want to kind of show you what we did. I can send screenshots of kind of what we did, but basically we set up a run of show. So we set up a run of show through Google Sheets where both of our IT experts could jump on. I could jump on, some other committee members could jump on and add like, this doesn't work, this works, this doesn't work. And we practice so much. The event was an hour long. Normally, in-person events are 3-4-ish plus hours. Really, it's been recommended keeping things at about 57 minutes. Ours ran a little over, but that's that engagement. People are sitting on their couches, just keeping them in tune. Everyone's sick of screens, right? I would say, yeah, try to, like for us, we told that story, and then I did a timeline. So I had our founder speak from her house with her horses, and you know, of course, I got like 17 videos because the first couple weren't right. So she had to make sure she did it, you know, a certain way. We highlighted some very important people through our history and whether or not they were still living. Their family members talked about kind of what that meant for that person. I'm talking about, you know, some volunteers that have really meant a lot through the years, some donors, community members, staff, I mean, you name it. So, it was an incredible success. I had no idea it would come anywhere near this. For some folks who weren't able to watch it live, they donated through a remittance envelope that we included with that card that I showed. So that helped include anyone that still did not feel comfortable jumping online. Trying to think of what else. I was getting donations that were through donor advised funds. So like I had no idea who some people even were at very large amounts. So, you know, some people could see we need it, you know, we put it out, hey, COVID relief. And we did highlight that this is COVID relief, but we're also honoring our 40th, you know, help CTRC stay afloat. So really everyone really pulled through for us. I've still pinched myself. I'm like, is this real? Did this really happen? I'm trying to think if I missed anything. Does anyone have any questions about any of this that we went through?
I would like to show your timeline and your what do you call it, a run of show?
Run of show, yeah.
That would help.
Yeah, timeline of
whatever you did to organize your whole script and your whole virtual event, like
sure.
What it looks like.
Yeah, so timeline, in general speaking, timeline. I'm sorry I didn't come more prepared for this.
I mean, right now, I'm just
general time.
Maybe you can email it later.
Yeah, and so March 16th, everything shut down. March 18th, boom, we're going virtual. I mean your timeline of your event. The actual event, yeah. So,
Denise, why don't you throw your email on the chat, and Michelle, you can grab it. Okay. And then that way you could send it via email, and it'll be a little bit easier to look at.
Probably, because what I have is like actual first handwritten draft in front of me. I don't have one that you really want to even look at right now. So
thank you.
We brought in a couple graphic designers that donated their time to help with the slides in between. With the vMix, you could switch out the different slides. So there was probably like 80 to 90 switches that happened in the back of our show that we relied very heavily on our volunteer. That was all volunteer based that helped us put that together. So, okay. It was wild.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So obviously it sounds like you were planning to have your fundraiser at your location, correct?
So we actually haven't held a fundraiser at our location in several years. We had booked at the JCC, the Jewish Community Center in Boulder.
Okay.
We had it lined up, and then I called them. I said, look, we can't. Our constituent base, our riders, we cannot do this. So they were very graceful. They gave us an 18-month grace period. So now we're looking at maybe doing some very small event at the very tail end. So probably next fall, maybe doing something in person.
Okay, so you did pay for something to a vendor that you didn't get back. It's just been delayed for you to use it.
Correct. And we didn't have to pay in full. They required a half down payment. So we did end up, so we're going to have to carry that over. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and email it to me too. I'll throw mine in there.
my phone is gonna die and I did not bring a charger. So can I have people email you if they would like some of these materials? Would that work?
Yes, yeah.
And then I will
email-
contact through. Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
email it to me, guys. I can throw my email in the chat. Or if Michelle, if you can send your whatever materials you're comfortable sharing with me, I can send it out to everybody that's here.
Wonderful. Okay. I will.
Michelle, what center are you at again?
The Colorado Therapeutic Writing Center in Longmont, Colorado.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, also, if you want to actually view the show, we recorded it and it's on a link to our main webpage. At the top, there's a YouTube channel link, and our show, our 40th anniversary virtual fundraising event is right there. So if you want to watch it, you can check it out.
Fantastic, Michelle. Thank you so much. That was very informative.
Michelle, I
Yeah,
have a quick question before you go. So
Sure.
would you go all virtual next year, provided
Yes.
that you could? You would. You'd stay virtual.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like I had mentioned, most of our donors are over the age of 65, and just knowing that if I'm trying to bring a bunch of people to one location, I not really comfortable with that at this point. If something miraculous happens between now and then with some sort of vaccine and everything is great, otherwise, yeah, definitely would do this again.
Okay, any other questions? I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to ask Michelle before her phone dies, but if you have a question,
Thank you.
feel free to jump on.
It's like trying to, I have 11%, so we have a few more minutes. I guess one of if I had to stress a couple things, I would say practice as much as you possibly can, either parts or segments or the entire run of show. And then those connections with your constituents, so important during this time. Phone calls, emails. I was on the phone with people day and night, sending cards, doing Zoom calls, so they got used to that virtual, looking at someone through a screen, Facebook lives, and like little mini Facebook lives. Like you can schedule them, but also it's fun to like, hey, surprise, we're live at the center kind of thing. So really helped that engagement piece for the night of. And we normally charge $100 for a ticket. Because we didn't do that, we actually had a wider audience. We had people from Florida, from California, Chicago joining in, which is really neat too.
Great. Thank you very much, Michelle, Jan, and Cheryl for joining us from out of state. I sure appreciate your ladies' time. But does anybody else have any questions for Michelle? I want to get to Cheryl as well. So if any other questions? Go ahead, Jan.
Michelle, how many people are normally at your in-person event? And then how many do you think you tuned in on the virtual side?
Yeah, I would say around 130 to 150 in person. And I would say like maybe half of our tables are sponsored of how that looks. We actually had more sponsorship this year than we did last year, which was great. And then what was the second part of your question?
How many people tuned in?
I'd have to go back and look, but it was really neat because I could see that. So CTRC had like 3 or 4 founders. One has been really steady. There were founders from California tuning in. It's like, kind of deal, which was, didn't quite lose me yet. Okay, which was very cool. It's hard to say. I would, because of couples, right? So like, that how many people were watching in one household. I know I had watch parties and I'm like yelling at some of our donors in their 70s, like, are you guys social distancing? Cause like, what are you doing? So they actually like, no, we're fine. I'm like, oh my God. 100 to 200 plus, cause it would Facebook tells you. YouTube, I haven't figured out if it tells you how many viewers or not. Okay. So.
That's awesome. Great job.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Michelle, how much, I didn't quite understand, how much did you end up charging or did you not charge for the event?
We did not charge. Okay. We debated that, but we could certainly have charged, but then someone could watch Facebook Live on their own. And so we didn't want to put that barrier up because they could still bid on an auction item. They could still send, we talked, oh, we also did a phone-a-thon. So we went old school with that. We really played it up. So if you, and that we had some fun with it and made it a little bit of comical. You can see if you watch the event. So yeah, try to push out in every way possible to get this out there. We did send a press release out also. I'm trying to think no, it's still coming. I need to write this down. Any other questions? I think I might be at 6%.
Okay, I'm actually, Cheryl, are you on a time crunch right now?
I actually am just a bit. I need to be done at 6:45 my time.
Okay.
So, yeah, but I don't think mine will take long because it's not a virtual thing and it's something we're just a recipient of. So I can just explain that if you're wanting me to go ahead now.
Yes, I know that. Catherine, I think you're on a time crunch, or is it Jen? It's one of those two.
I'm not on a time crunch, but I have 37% left on my computer and don't have a battery charger with me, so.
Gotcha. Okay, I do want to hear about your guys' event, but I'm going to turn it to Cheryl here because I know yours is kind of a unique setup too. So Cheryl, will you tell us about that?
Sure. Hi guys, my name's Cheryl and I'm the new executive director with Front Range Exceptional Equestrians. I just started with them. Hi, Dan. I just started with the organization in January, so right before COVID-19. If you guys aren't familiar with our program, we have been operating for 37 years, a little over 37 years, but it's remained pretty small because they have never had somebody full-time on staff to basically just facilitate things, kind of get systems into place. So it was kind of like a startup when I came in this year, in that I got together a new website for them, a new database. We're using Equiforce now. They really didn't have a big donor base, didn't have a big fundraising event or anything. So we've been fortunate to be part of an annual golf tournament that a local club basically hosts at the Fort Collins Country Club here. And so that's been huge for our organization, because that's been the biggest way that we've been able to raise some funds. And basically the club puts the whole tournament on, which I recommend if you can find a way to piggyback on something like this. It's huge because we basically just need to assist with finding golfers, donors, sponsors, people that are willing to provide silent auction items, door prizes, things like that. So it doesn't require a lot on our time to facilitate necessarily. We do have volunteers that show up and work at the event. This year, they weren't sure that the event was going to happen because of COVID-19. It's scheduled for August 31st, and they are going to move forward with it. They're just reducing the number of golfers, and they're changing the format this year so that they can space people out a little bit more. But basically, I think there's 6 recipients that whatever funds we can assist bringing in, they come right back to our program. So the registration fees for golfers, we get a pretty big percentage of. If it's a sponsorship, we get 100% of it. So that's kind of what we're working on right now. We did just find out not too long ago that they were a little bit, crunched for time to get out there and find golfers and sponsors. But this is something that our program has relied on to raise funds. It's something that obviously I would like to change in the future. Now, just listening to Michelle explain her event, like, that seems amazing that you could have brought in that much more with a virtual event than going through all of the work to do an in-person event. So I think we're all learning from this whole COVID-19 that there might be smarter ways rather than working harder. So that's kind of what we do here, is piggyback on a tournament that, and we were invited obviously as a local nonprofit to be part of this tournament every year for the last, I don't know, maybe five or 6 years. So it's not something that we facilitate or host, but you might want to look in your area and see if there are any clubs that put together tournaments specifically for charities or nonprofits that they're willing to allow you to basically be a recipient of, if you are willing to put the effort in to just gather golfers and sponsors. So that's pretty much the what's going on here.
And Cheryl, I have a question for you about that. Does it cost monetarily, does it cost you guys anything to participate or do anything like that, or is it just the footwork of gathering those resources?
That's exactly it. There is no cost to us. That's why it's huge that, we're very fortunate to be one of the recipients. They just rely on us to help them bring in golfers and sponsors. The nice thing is, when people do sign up, if they aren't designating one of the specific recipient charities, they basically split the remaining funds that are raised, whether it's through a golf registration or a sponsorship. Then any of the funds that were non-designated get split amongst the 6 recipients. So it's kind of a nice way to be supported when you're small like we are.
Best fundraising event ever is when other people do it for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned that. I used to publish 2 magazines before I started with Front Range Exceptional Equestrians, and we did a lot of events, neighborhood events and whatnot. And I mean, I busted my butt for years putting together Easter egg hunts and different things that we just did so much work. And I started to learn there's ways to find other events that you can be part of if you're creative enough and if you're willing to kind of put that out there to different clubs or programs, because I think people are always looking to work together, and if it's a win-win, then sometimes it takes away a lot of the workload.
How much do you typically, I guess, net on that as a recipient beneficiary? So
I think on average, it's been about 30 to 35,000. So for our program, that was good, since they didn't really have an annual fundraising event. And it's definitely not something we want to give up. I think the tournament itself has raised like over 400 or 540,000 to distribute to the various organizations that are recipients. So I think it depends on how well everybody gets out there and pulls together. Yeah.
Thank you very much again, Cheryl, for joining us. Does anybody else have questions for Cheryl? No? Okay, and I was just curious, I forget, are you, Jan and Cheryl, are you guys in the same county? Are Free and Hearts and Horses in the same county in Colorado?
Yeah, we are.
Okay,
yep.
So you guys have similar restrictions. Gotcha. Okay. Well, hope things are going well. Really glad you ladies are on the call. But I will turn it over now to, it's both Jen and Catherine are from Giant Steps here in Northern California in Region 11. And will you ladies clarify, have you already had, I know that you're prepping for a fundraiser right now, but have you guys already had one for Giant Steps since March, I guess?
We have our annual farm to stable dinner was due to be on April 25th, and we converted it to a virtual gala. And then we've got another one coming up in 2 weeks. And there's supposed to be a third, well, the third one that's in beginning of September got canceled. And then the 4th one in December will likely be canceled as well. Or at least different.
Okay. Do you guys have, I sent the email to you guys too, can you guys introduce Giant Steps a little bit with some of the numbers and demographics?
Yeah, so our budget is about $1 million, and Jen, I'll let you talk about the clients.
So we have about, well, the last term we had 130 writers a week coming out. And then, but that's weekly writers. We also have the VA comes out every month and other special events. So it was a lot more than that, and we're down to 30 now.
And so in terms of fundraising, we host 3 major events that we run ourselves a year. Our Farm to Stable dinner, which is in the spring, the Giant Steps Charity Classic, which is an AA rated horse show that's part of the horse show series that's at Sonoma Horse Park, which is where we are located. And we're very lucky in that respect that we have that support. And this is year 11. And then our Horse and Style Holiday Boutique is in December. And this would have been year 3 that we're doing that. And it's a luncheon with shopping with 10 to 15 different vendors. And we do a fund to need during the lunch itself. And then the vendors all give a minimum of 20% of whatever they sell back to Giant Steps. And then there is a 4th event that last year was the first year, and this year is the one that got canceled. The Split Rock Jumping Tour is a jumping tour that goes throughout the United States. 2 years ago, they started doing one of their shows at Sonoma Horse Park, and last year designated us to be the beneficiaries of the gala that they have during that event. So like what Cheryl does with the golf tournament, we don't have to do a whole bunch with that. We don't even have to find sponsors, which makes it really easy. But the gala portion of it this year has been canceled because of COVID-19. So we're losing out on that funding. And then we do a number of smaller events throughout the year. Last year, I implemented approximately once a month out at the barn. We would have different wineries come in and do a free tasting for whoever wanted to come. And they would sell wine, and a percentage of whatever they sold, they would give back to us. And it was very casual and just a chance to hang out. And if you didn't know Giant Steps, meet the horses and meet some of the staff. And because of where we're located, there are a lot of other riders that go throughout the property because there's, I think, 5 other barns housed on site. So they would come over and just hang out. It'd be only a couple of hours, but there'd be food, and you could go pet the ponies and just hang out on the property. We do a mix. Generally, we do a mix of online and in person, both Farm to Stable and the Charity Classic. The auction has been online now for the last 4 years. And there would be a live auction portion that would be in person and wouldn't be online, although people could preview the lots online. But then the event itself would be in person, and we would run it so that the auction starts the Sunday prior and then ends the night of the event, so that we have found that greatly increases the amount of revenue we'd actually make on the auction. Farm to Stable this year got switched to a virtual about a month before the event. It was held on April 25th. We are very lucky in that our auctioneer has become a board member this year, and she only does charity fundraising, and so she helped out a lot with creating the virtual gala and putting the stories together. We didn't end up doing anything live, but it was some of it was recorded as if it was live. And we had, I think, 3 different stories of either clients, volunteers, or staff that were mixed throughout the event, which ran about 45 minutes. Well, total of an hour, because we had about 15 minutes of pre-show for anyone who tuned in early that really just highlighted different auction lots because the auction closed that night. But Abra basically put the whole thing together, and all I had to do was edit, which made my job a lot easier. And the silent auction raised about double of what it normally does. The Farm to Stable event itself raised, I think, about 15,000 more than last year. And our costs went down significantly because it wasn't in person. We are still fighting with the venue, unfortunately, to get our money back. So that's been tough. But other than that, the event itself, other than that cost, was less than $2,000, and raised about $100,000. So the charity classic that's coming up, the horse show itself, we have a junior relay which happens, which amateur riders do teams of 2 and participate in an unmounted obstacle course on the Friday night of the show. That is looking different this year. We are still doing it, but the course itself will be set up at our barn, and they need to sign up for slots to come over and do it throughout the show. And we'll see how it goes. So far, it's raised less than $1,000, but usually all of the fundraising happens during the week of the show itself. It normally raises between $30,000 and $40,000. So we'll see. I have no idea what's going to happen there. The online auction raises anywhere between $65,000 to $90,000. We are about, I'd say we're at 60% of goal in terms of value right now. So I don't expect it to do as well. The whole event itself usually raises about 20% of our budget. And we don't see that happening this year. I think for us, at least, part of it is that people are tired of virtual stuff, and they want to be able to be doing in-person things at this point. And getting sponsorships for the different classes within the horse show is tough, because the horse show, they can't allow spectators, and the horse show didn't get approved by the county until mid-June. So we had a big time crunch in terms of getting sponsors. So sponsorships are about, I want to say 65 to 70% of what last year's revenue was. So the first one went really well, and we'll see what happens with this one, I guess, is where we are.
And can you clarify, Jen, or I keep seeing Jen on yours, Catherine. That's for able-bodied riders, is that right? It's not for your participants?
Correct. We, the last 2 years, Jen? It's been 2 years. We've had adaptive classes during that show, that on the Wednesday of that show, we have a full day of a horse show in our barn. That's been amazing and is the best day of the year. And our riders love it. Our sponsors love it. Our staff, our volunteers, donors, everyone loves it. And we can't do it this year because of COVID. So
I still have riders calling me every day going, why aren't we having this show? And
yeah,
we just can't. Yeah.
So partly because of the restrictions of how many people we can have in the arena, and also that we really just don't feel like it's fair when we can only bring back 25% of our client population to have a horse show and say, okay, well, you guys can do it, but the rest of you can't. Just doesn't seem fair.
And it's a full day. When we have our show, it's a full day. We're here at 5 o'clock in the morning. Show starts at 9, and we run well to dark because all the riders want to be in it.
Yep. And we have we've combined that. We used to have a sponsor lunch during the horse show, during the week-long horse show, and we've now combined that lunch to be during adaptive classes. So we have a barbecue that we don't charge for, and anyone who's there, clients, volunteers, the spectators, our sponsors are all invited to come and hang out and eat and watch.
Yeah. It's a really great time to get your sponsors out there to see clients doing their best work. So that's, I don't know that our show probably costs us money, but it really gets a lot of word out there about us.
And in the long run, we break about even on that show, because we get the polo sponsored, we get the barbecue sponsored, last year we had a sponsor specifically for our adaptive classes. So we do okay.
As you can see, this is why I invited Catherine to come along, because I deal with horses and people. I don't do anything with money.
And I'll say I invited our executive director because I am in the same boat, Jen. That's Leslie Gardner. She's our executive.
The less I know about the funds, the better. I just spend it a lot.
Well, you're still here. That's good. And will you clarify for me, Catherine, the event that you guys normally have in December, did you say you're expecting that to be canceled?
We haven't gotten to the point where we've even talked about it. but I put a hold on the venue last year, right after the last one. But it's, it's a lunch with 100 people and everyone's shopping, and that's very shoulder to shoulder, and I just don't see it happening. It's also in our neighboring county, which is doing worse than Sonoma County is. It's actually one of the highest in the state right now for COVID-19 cases. So we could certainly switch locations and that might make a difference, but I don't think the way that it runs, we just can't physically do it. We may do some sort of online shopping with those vendors where people can get a code and 20% will go to us, but we haven't gotten to the point where we've talked about it yet.
Okay, well, thank you guys very much also for joining. I want to be respectful of everybody's time, and we've just got maybe 5 minutes. So I'm going to open it up to if anybody here has questions, even if you've kind of shared or presented, if you have questions of anybody else. I know we have representation, Chrissy's in Hawaii, so we're all across states, across couple different regions. So if anybody has any questions specific of those on the call, I would certainly love to hear what you guys have to share.
I have a quick question about the giant steps with having Sonoma Horse Park involved. Are they the ones, like, are the Hermans the one who donate the money? Is it the horse shows that put it on? I mean, I'm from there, so my neighbor was
how do you know who the Hermans are?
Well, I have Ashley's first chap, so my neighbor was the first one to buy that property, and then they sold it to the Hermans. So I used to ride with Marion Nelson and was a trainer for her for a while. So I was curious how that happened, or who's the one who's donating funds, to you guys.
So my first year was 2016, which was the year in which the Charity Classic switched gears in terms of the gala. It used to be a very fancy, very beautiful, from what I understand, and very labor-intensive gala. That when I showed up, I was told we would no longer be doing that, and I could breathe a huge sigh of relief that we didn't have to do it anymore.
So much work.
And the reasons we switched over were, as much as beautiful as it was, it didn't really represent giant steps. And it was, in the long run, although it raised a lot of money, it cost so much money that between that and the labor, it just wasn't worth it. So we switched over to a much more casual format for the main event for the fun, in terms of the fundraising. And traditionally, it would be now that the Grand Prix happens on Saturday standard, and Hermes sponsors that, and it doesn't really have anything to do with giant steps. And on the Friday of the show is when we open up the VIP berm to everyone. There's no cost to be there. We get beer and wine sponsors. We have that's when the junior relay happens. There traditionally has been a Calcutta auction, which we did for a few years, and then last year decided maybe that wasn't such a great idea anymore. So we did something else that was called Pick Your Winner, in which people basically bet on who they thought would win the Grand Prix and the International Hunters Derby. And if they got it right, then they got 10% of whatever pot was raised for during that gamble, which is legal in the state of California, as long as it's that the winner only gets 10% of the pot, because otherwise it's considered gambling. But then the 90% would go to giant steps. So now the way that we raise money, we no longer get the show fees from the show, but we do get all of the sponsorship money, all of the auction money, whatever we raise through the junior relay, and whatever other stuff we do during the show itself. But and Sonoma Horse Park does give us a break on the catering and helps with some of the costs. Ashley actually is no longer involved in the show management. She has since left. Her father still runs the facility itself, but Sarah Appel took over last year for the show stuff. So things are going in a few different directions, and we're not sure what it's going to look like, but it is definitely a good relationship with Sarah.
I have a question for your online auction. What kind of products did you find, or gift baskets or whatever, did you find that sold the most, and what flopped?
Wine. Everyone wants wine right now.
Yes, we do, but
So wine did really well. If you can get your donors to ship directly to your auction winners, that's even better, because then you don't need to deal with it. We did end, like, we had auction item pickup that was scheduled at our office that I did it as online scheduling through Sign Up Genius, so that only one person would be there at a time. Everyone wore masks. I'd have it by the door. When they came, they walked in, they picked it up, they walked back out. So it depends on the auction. Charity Classic is obviously very much geared towards the hunter jumper community, because that is who rides at Sonoma Horse Park. Even though the auction is online, it tends to be those that are there at the show that are participating. And that tends to be a much higher end auction than anything else we do. There was so much wine in Farm to Stable. So it's just,
Was a lot.
there was a lot of wine. Other alcohol, I mean, it's awful, but alcohol, if I thought I could get away with it, I would put CBD in there. You know,
And guns. And guns.
No, you know what? I don't know that guns would go real well here.
Oh, our area. Totally.
Yeah.
So let's see what else was in there. That was, we had one thing that went really well, which was new this year, was a woman does custom crocheted horses, and she donated one and ended up doing two because they did so well. What else? Like, I have something that's going to be in the upcoming auction is a Zoom with a baby goat, and I've already had someone text me being really excited about that. We do have a few celebrity connections. Matt Cain is doing an experience with us, who's a pitcher for the San Francisco Giants. We're at this point, we're like, okay, so small experiences that can be private are probably going to do really well. Outdoor stuff will do well. We're looking at doing, Zoom calls with someone who is an expert in their field. What else? I've been staring at auction stuff all day. Like, I should know this. If you're doing any travel, make sure that the expiration dates are like within, December 2021, or, we have one that's to Portugal, and there are travel restrictions to Europe right now, but our donor said it can be a year from whenever the travel bans are lifted. So stuff like that to make sure that it's flexible. We're doing a virtual cooking class with a Michelin Bib Gourmand chef that's an instant buy item, so people can just purchase the tickets for it. We'll see how many people purchase, and we'll ship them.
Catherine, that didn't do well that you were expecting to do better?
I'm going to pull it up, and I have 14% left on my computer, so just heads up.
So Catherine joins us from she was actually out today looking for new venues for places. So she is at a vineyard right now.
I am. I'm sitting at Bouchain, which is a wonderful supporter of ours. And I wasn't going to get home in time to do this. So one that does really well every year is we have a volunteer who is a former SF mounted PD who does a guided ride through Golden Gate Park with him, and you get to see some of the different places that you can't get to if you're not with a police officer. And we double sold that last year, and it did really well again this year. Stuff that didn't do well. Wine tastings don't do particularly well where we are because we are in Sonoma County, and people can go wine tasting whenever they want. Art tends to not do very well because art is very subjective. I was actually surprised at some of the getaways I guess they did okay. They didn't do worse. They didn't do amazing. We had, a trip to Glen Ellen in July, which has since passed, which was supposed to be a night stay. Plus there's an outdoor theater group here that does shows at Jack London Square Park, or Jack London State Park. which still sold, but got rescheduled. Things like the opera and the ballet and, you know, minor league baseball games and stuff like that don't do well unless they're really unique. You know, the front row tickets to the Nutcracker, they do great. The random opera seats to whatever show you want doesn't do so well. So it tends to need to be very specific and stuff that people can't necessarily get on their own. You know, the horse related stuff, like the equine services stuff, didn't do that well in Farm to Stable, but probably will do well in Charity Classic because of the difference in the audience. With Farm to Stable, we tend to try and do a lot of stuff that is food and wine and spirits because it is a farm to table event. And then with Charity Classic, we look at a lot of equine stuff because we know that our audience is equine based. So yeah.
Caitlin, I want to be mindful. I'm not sure what will happen. I don't know if, as the host, if you have to be on this entire time, but I know that we're a couple minutes over, and I saw Kenise raise her hand. You have a question, Kenise?
I just wondered if anybody, are you still offering, because normally we have an in-person event, we do sponsor packages of how many tables, you know, they would get based on their giving level. Being we're not having tables because they're watching from home, did anyone put together sponsored packages that you would provide them with? Like we're thinking of doing liquor baskets that they can choose whether they want a martini basket or a bourbon basket, and then we'll deliver it to them. Did anyone do anything like that to entice the sponsors that normally buy tables?
We didn't do anything like that, but it sounds like a great idea. You know, we had already gotten all of our sponsors for Farm to Stable by the time we switched it to virtual, and you know, lucky for us, no one said we want our money back. And for Charity Classic, it's been tougher. We discounted a lot of the classes in order to get sponsors. But I only had one sponsor ask what happens if the show gets canceled. So we haven't done anything like that, although now that you say that, I might be.
I like that idea.
Can you tell them about the dinner option as well?
So yeah, you know, we normally have a hoedown at Rains, and we usually have 800 people, and we have our in-town, they call it Firehouse Q and Brew, but it's a barbecue place. And so instead, we're giving them the basket, and then we're giving them gift certificate for dinner. But in this case, I'm also going to give them the option for barbecue or one of our fancier restaurants, or a generic one for a chain restaurant in case they don't want to go to a local place. And they can choose then to use that for their watch party as their meal, or as sponsors, they'll just have that gift certificate. But the alcohol, they have 5 baskets to choose from. They're bourbon, wine, beer, martini, and I can't remember the other one at the moment, but
margarita.
Yeah, margarita. Thanks, Caitlin. And so we're trying to, you know, still give them something because we're still asking them for a high dollar value. We're trying to get them to sponsor at the, you know, $1,500 or $3,000 level. And we feel like, you know, they get so much from an event that they're not going to get at home. So.
I definitely, you know, post-event or once we decided it was going virtual, I sent those people who bought VIP tickets, they got some of the wine that they would have consumed at the event itself. I sent a couple cases to our title sponsor, to a few others who have been, you know, good supporters. And I did reach out to all our wine sponsors and say, if you don't want to donate your wine anymore, since we're not going to be serving it in this traditional manner, that's totally fine. And everyone said, put it in the auction instead.
Okay.
So you might want to reach out to, you know, those wine sponsors that you would have asked to serve, ask them for an auction item instead, and so that they can still be involved, and they may even get more publicity that way because people will see it on the online auction versus just the people who would have been at the event. But I will, you know, with our virtual gala, I don't know how many tuned in. We did it on YouTube and Facebook, and I literally held up my phone to the screen for Instagram, which I do not recommend. It really didn't look good. But I really don't know how many people tuned in. I know quite a few of our board members saw it, and part of the reason that we even did it was so we could reach out to those donors who have donated to the Farm to Stable Fund to Need in the past, or who donated around that time of year, to say, we're doing this event, we have this deadline, we want to be able to go into it saying this much has already been raised, which worked. And so that's part of the reason we were able to raise more money than we did the year before, because we were able to reach out to those donors. And also with COVID-19 going on, I think we had one sponsor send in double what her sponsor amount was. And we had another donor send in double what he did last year because of COVID going on. So people really stepped up.
Thank you.
I've been hearing wonderful things about that despite everything going on, people are really, really wanting to step in where they can and help where they can.
Yeah, we've only had one person let us know that they were no longer going to be supporting us due to political differences, but so many others have said, we're going to support you more. So.
Awesome. Okay, ladies, is there anybody else that has any questions for anybody on the call? I know we're 10 after 6 here, so I don't want to keep anybody too long, but anybody have any questions for anyone? You guys are great resources.
You guys also, I'm going to try and post this recording or send it to Courtney, our communications chair, to put it on the Facebook page, because I've gotten several emails asking for it. So if everybody's okay with that. And then, tune in on the Facebook page. So if anybody has any questions, maybe they can reach out to you guys directly, because I know that I've learned quite a bit from what you guys have given us. And I can't wait to see, what other programs reach out. Thank you guys for Out of the Region joining us.
Yes, and I'll send Jan, Michelle, and Cheryl, I'll send the 3 of you ladies the recording as well if you'd like to have it. I've got a list of things to include in that email for everybody. So special thank you to those 3 that joined from out of state, and glad to see some new faces and some familiar faces. Hope you guys are all safe, healthy at your centers and families, and we'll see you next month for the August meeting.
Yeah, it's going to be the 3rd Thursday of every month, so tune in.
Thank you so much for having me join. I'm actually from Region 1. I'm a volunteer from a center in Massachusetts. And so it's been really cool to hear kind of what you guys have done with your, moving virtual towards fundraising. Our center because we've been a hot spot, so our center is still shut down. And we've done a couple little things like a t-shirt fundraiser, and we did a Facebook Live. Our bar manager is really good at hula hooping, so she did a hula hoop pledge over Facebook Live, and we raised over $2,300 just from that 1-hour event. But we haven't really done a big gala or anything, and we are looking towards doing an online auction in the fall. So it's been good to hear, to kind of take that back to our program director and say, here are items that worked for other centers, and here's what might not work, and figuring out the platform and everything. So it was so great to join you all.
Thanks for coming all that way, Diana.
Diana, feel free to reach out to myself or Nicole or Jen, any of the region leadership team. We'd love to help any way that we can.
That'd be awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think so I know the call is being recorded. Is someone taking meeting notes as well, or?
No, we didn't take notes, but we can certainly reach out and get more information for you if you have specific questions regarding anything that came up.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
A list of things to share from particularly Michelle's event, some links and some resources there. So
yeah, that'd be great. Anything that I can pass on to our program director, who, like I said, is just kind of researching different options in terms of hosting an online auction.
Diana, if you check on YouTube and Google Giant Steps Virtual Gala, it will probably pop up. It would have been from April 25th.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you.